Hi guys, Joe here, and welcome to 750 Gaming. In this one I'll be discussing Infernus Space Marines and why I think they could be a great addition to your army. Alright then, Infernus Space Marines. Let's get a few things out of the way to begin with. Does the world of 40k need them? No. Do the Adeptus Astartes need another unit? God no. Do they really make sense thematically against anything other than, say, Tyranids? Well, in our escapist fantasy universe, probably not. I mean, we've all seen those scenes in sci-fi movies and TV shows where legions of dudes with flamethrowers incinerate overgrown jungles on alien planets to clear out the wildlife, shall we say. And all the historical real-world inspiration and connotations are deliberately glossed over. Naturally. But whilst their game/universe necessity and longevity is possibly up for grabs, they are here. And they are here en masse. And you know what? That's a really good thing for Space Marine players, and here's why. The first reason is to do with their in-game abilities. Now, on the face of it, there's nothing special about them. They are just your regular Space Marines, 6-inch movement, toughness 4, 3+ save, standard leadership and standard 2 wounds. Bodies on a table, they are the same as intercessors. But, as with other Space Marine units that aren't battle line, you are losing that pip of objective securing ability per Marine. And whereas an intercessor can shoot from a relatively safe distance away from any possible melee, the Pyreblasters have half the range of a bolt rifle. You'll need to be in notional pistol range to be targeting anything. And if you were to compare those special weapons with another squad with a dedicated special weapon type, say the Hellblasters, then the Pyreblasters seem a significant downgrade on those plasma incinerators. And this will be why your Hellblasters are 25 points a model, 125 for a squad of 5, as opposed to the Infernus Space Marines 18 points a model, 90 points for 5 models. Okay, so that's a lot of cons straight off the bat. However, depending on your dice rolling, I think you can get a lot of bang for your buck with this unit of Space Marines. Naturally, they have the potential to be quite swingy, which is why 90 points is probably fair. But my goodness, can they be overpowered if you sacrifice the necessary to the dice gods. Let's do some math hammer then, and quickly compare all these weapons. In 10th edition, the standard Astartes bolt rifle has become a lot more versatile. Gone are the days of different modes of fire. Nope, for intercessors these days you get 2 shots hitting on freeze at strength 4, -1 AP and 1 damage. With both the assault keyword, meaning you can advance and shoot, very handy, and the heavy keyword giving you +1 to hit, so hitting on 2s now if you stay still. Very nice bit of tactical flexibility indeed. For the purposes of this then, let's assume your squad of 5 intercessors has remained stationary, and let's say you're shooting all your 10 shots into an opposing unit of more intercessors, for a sort of generic stat, and of course I've assumed you've called Oath of Moment on said target. Okay, criteria set. Probability suggests that 8 of those bolt rifle shots will hit. Reroll the missed ones with your Oath of Moment, and let's say that 9 go through in total. It's a strength 4 weapon. As we mentioned before, Space Marines for the most part are toughness 4, so will be wounding on 4s. A 50% chance of wounding. Of those 9 hits then, that's going to be 4 wounds, conservatively rounding down, plus 2 more when re-rolling your 5 missed wounds due to Oath of Moment again. So, 6 wounds at -1 AP, 10 shots, 6 wounds. Yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. Space Marines have a 3+ save. -1 AP on those rifles is helpful, but let's remember we're playing 10th edition, where the benefit of cover can be acquired by cowering behind a plume of dust kicked up by your space boots. So, all things considered, let's add back +1 to save to balance it all out. And so, yeah, we're back to freeze. 60% saved, 2 wounds go through, 1 damage each, so 2 in total against 2 wound Space Marines. That's 1 dead Adeptus Astartes. Right, there's your baseline. Plasma incinerators then. To really maximise the potential, you are clearly going to be supercharging these bad boys. Yes, they become hazardous, but less so than in previous editions, so the payoff is greater, and it's just fun. And we'll deal with the said hazard in a bit. They also have the assault and heavy keyword, so let's go with a stationary volley of fire again for consistency. 10 shots again, hitting on 2s, as per the bolt rifles, let's call it another 9 hits. Strength 8 against toughness 4 this time, so you're now wounding Space Marines on 2s, which is lovely stuff. Conservative Oath of Momenting suggests an average of 8 wounds from your 10 shots this time, and at minus 3 AP, even with the benefit of cover, 5 of those are likely going through. And with 2 damage apiece, congratulations, you've taken out the entire 5-man squad of intercessors. Huzzah! Of course, you've now got the hazardous check to make. Just don't roll 1s, okay? Of course, there is a 16% chance that you will, but assuming you roll just the 1-1, well, that's a dead Hellblaster, unless you use your command point reroll. And even then, should the fickle dice gods abandon you, and he's definitely dead, you have a 66% chance of rolling a 3+ for that guy to be able to loose another volley of hazardous plasma at something else with their Hellblaster for the chapter ability. Nice. Okay, so I think all I've actually done there is big up the Hellblasters. And even if you aren't gung-ho and don't hazardous up your boys, with favourable rolling, they are still taking out a squad of Space Marines per shooting phase. So yeah, if you've got spare 30 points and don't mind losing a pip of OC, then you're always going to give your intercessors some big-ass plasma weapons and call them Hellblasters instead. It's just good business. Okay, alright. So we've proven that plasma incinerators trump bolt rifles. Though that was probably obvious, really. So where do Pyreblasters fit in? Why on earth do I rate them so? Now their math isn't plasma incinerator level, but it's still kind of fun. They are obviously a torrent weapon, so that's d6 auto hits per marine, which probability dictates is going to be 15 hits on average. So far so good. Strength 5 against toughness 4 Space Marines, so we're wounding on 3s. That's going to be roughly 11-12 wounds, call it 11 for safety. There's no AP on these Pyreblasters, granted, but as you can't improve above a 3+ save with cover, 3+ it will remain for saving the other Space Marines. I mention cover here because Pyreblasters would normally ignore it. A moot point in this example, granted, but against slightly weak units with a lesser saving throw that are likely sitting in cover to maximise their survivability, Pyreblasters are going to be strong. But that's not what we're doing here. We're shooting Space Marines, so ignore that point for now, we'll come back to it later. Your enemy Space Marines then have 11 3+ saving throws to make. Assuming 6 of those are saved, on average, that's 5 damage going through, which is 2.5 dead Space Marines. 1.5 Space Marines better than those bolt rifles, it would seem. Now stay with me here because I appreciate all we've done is establish what we'd all probably already assumed when shooting against other like armoured Space Marines and messing around with the probability. Obviously, if you're hitting tougher targets, your Hellblasters are just going to excel even further, whereas with no AP, we could find that our flamethrower dudes are armed with nothing more than pretty pyrotechnics. However, as mentioned just now, against the Horde, against Termagants, against Guardsmen, or even against Orc Boys with a low armour save, then we could be cooking with gas, or highly flammable cover-ignoring projectile fluid at any rate. You want to clear an objective currently controlled by a horde of enemy infantry? Call in the Infernus Squads. And let's take probability out of the question for a minute. Let's assume by wild sacrifice to the dice gods that everything you roll is a 6 and your opponent can't make a save. 5 intercessors with bolt rifles can dish out a maximum of 10 damage per shooting phase for their 95 points, which is 9.5 points per damage. 5 Hellblasters, if we're being dangerous, can theoretically do 30 damage for their 125 points, 4.2 points per damage. But actually, with their torrent weapons, so can 5 Infernus Marines. 30 damage for just the 90 points. 90 points! 3 points per damage. Come on! Alright, so those are the numbers. They do and don't prove a point. It's all down to dice at the end of the day, so yes, that was a semi-pointless exercise to some extent. But with that math in hand, albeit with a pinch of salt also, the second reason I think Infernus Squads are hot right now is the one that really bears the weight. For the last 3 years of the Indomitus era, the Assault Intercessors have been the stalwart of many Space Marine army lists, mine included. Why? because they were available, and available for cheap. They were included in the launch box and then every subsequent starter box during the 9th edition cycle, and a bazillion of those push-fit not monopose sprues ended up on the eBay machine for really useful prices. You could get 5 Space Marines for anywhere between 10 to 15 quid. 90 points for a tenner? Yeah, alright. Or, if you didn't want the Assault Intercessor unit per se, then you could use them for other kit bashes. Considering the average box of Space Marines costs around 30 to 40 quid depending on unit and size, to be able to add a unit of wham bam thank you ma'am Space Marines to your army for £10 is just a steal. Now, those 9th edition boxes are no longer on general sale by Games Workshop, and as such the age of the Assault Intercessor is drawing to an end. The old king is dead. Long live the king. And that new king is called the Infernus Squad. In the end, it looks like Games Workshop have created far more Leviathan box sets than they possibly needed to, and after following that up with these newly announced smaller starter boxes, all of which also include Infernus Squaddies, well, let's just say Space Marines wielding Pyroblasters are in plentiful supply. I like Hellblasters. I think plasma weapons are really cool, and I like the math they put up. What I don't necessarily like is the £35 price tag for 5 Space Marines. And at 125 points, I'd need to consider them a specialist unit and make room for them in my army lists. Instead, I'm heading over to eBay, and if you look in the right places, you can find absolute steals. With a multi-buy offer, I picked up 2 units of Infernus Space Marines for less than £15. That's 180 points of 10 slightly better than bolt rifle wielding and good for clearing horde Space Marines. And for better than half the price of a box of 10 Intercessors, or 5 Hellblasters. Now, if money isn't necessarily an issue, and you are able, I wouldn't go so far as to say happy, to spend what you need or what you want to on this hobby to get your dream army list, and that army list doesn't include Infernus Squads, well then I'm just glad you've indulged me thus far. But if your wallet is limited, and you want a relatively fun unit for dirt cheap, then for the 10th edition cycle, the Infernus Squad are gonna be your boys. Now the Decriers will point out their limited range, and I will accept that 12 inches means that it could be a while before they get close enough to the enemy to do anything significant, and you make a good point. As such, I will counter it and present to you Article B, the drop pod. If you've got one or can get one and can squeeze 70 points into your list, just drop a lieutenant, right? Then there's a 1-2 combo punch right here for your consideration. Drop pods can come in on turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, and suddenly give you supreme tactical flexibility. You've got to land 9 inches away from the enemy models, as per any other deep striking or reserve unit, but of course 9 inches is nicely within 12 inches. And you can fit 10, yes, 10 Infernus Space Marines in a drop pod. Now we're talking. Want to camp a centre field objective turn 1? Done. Want to clear an objective of a load of chaff at some point? You got it. Want to just semi-alpha strike the enemy horde? Yeah. I mean, if you get first turn, you can just drop 10 cover-ignoring flamethrower Space Marines right in your opponent's face from the outset. 10. Assuming you can deploy from the drop pod appropriately, which could be tricky given terrain, etc., that's going to be an average of 30 first shooting phase auto hits against whatever you're targeting. And as we know, a blob of 10 Space Marines won't be cleared with particular ease. Oh, and then there's a certain stratagem called Overwatch, which seriously becomes overpowered in this scenario as everyone scrambles to get away from you. 250 points. More than worth the cost for the absolute chaos you can cause up front while the rest of your Space Marines go objective hunting. Infernus Space Marines. Do it. You know you want to. Or, if you don't, but you have a load of other spare guns and or chainswords or whatever from other boxes, and you just want 5 more bodies in order to kit bash another unit of intercessors or assault intercessors or whatever, then here they are, cheap and readily available, and will probably be so for the next 3 years. It's only logical. As I said, I picked up 2 units for dirt cheap. I'll use one to reinforce my ever-growing and re-evolving Black Templars. I've rewritten the script for that video too many times over the last month. And the other will likely end up in my 750 point Space Wolves army, which I realise I haven't actually featured in any of the videos on this channel to date. We'll get to them. One day. Infernus Squads. 2 thumbs up. But that's just me. What do you think? Do you agree? Are you using yours to glorious effect, or have you failed to get any value from them on the tabletop? Do you have designs on a squad, or have yours ended up on eBay? As ever, let me know what you think in the comment section below, as I love to interact with you guys. And hopefully, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Let's go! As always, I just do this for fun and make these videos when I can. I don't have a regular release schedule, they just happen when they happen. So, if you want to make sure you don't miss a beat over the next few months and going forward, then hit subscribe so you can catch these when they come. If you enjoyed this or any of my other videos, then do hit that like button, as it really helps boost my ego, and do come check me out on Instagram for all my hobbying updates. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next one.